So, we've all heard the saying go, as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be at this time as well, right? Of course, we read that in the book of Matthew, chapter 24, when the Messiah was actually giving a prophetic word to his disciples. And there's many different things, that go into, what's happening during the time of Noah, right? And what's happening today, the many parallels. But there was something interesting that I found out about recently that really was something that was kind of, I guess you can say that it was something that really makes that come more alive even more so. Because we're in that time when there are a lot of things that are going to be seen. A lot of things. And a lot of parallels are going to be able to be made. So we're going to get to this information that I want to bring out that I actually discovered, ran upon, heard somebody else mention, actually, and I started doing some research on it. And I was like, wow, because I have not heard anything about it on the news at all. But before we get to that, let's lead up to it. So, let's go to the book of Genesis. Now, we're going to be back in Genesis. We're going to be at the beginning here a little bit today. We're going to go to Genesis chapter 11. And at Genesis chapter 11, we're going to start reading from verses 1 all the way to verses 9. Again, that's at Genesis chapter 11. And we're going to start reading from verses 1 through 9. So verse 1 in Genesis 11 states, "And the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. And it came to pass as they journeyed from the east that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. And they said one to another, Go to, let us make brick, and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone, and slime had they for mortar. And they said, Go to, let us build us a city and a tower, whose top may reach unto heaven. And let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth." So I want to stop there for a second, right? You notice in verse 4, they said, let us make us a name, lest we be scattered upon the face of the whole earth. Now, that tells us that they knew that it was something they should have been doing, but they were not doing it, right? They were refusing to do it. That's a very key to catch that in that verse, so we can understand that something else that comes out in the next few verses. Verse 5, "And the Most High came down to see the city and the tower which the children of men builded. And the Most High said, Behold, the people is one, and they have all one language. And this they begin to do. And now nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do. Go to, let us go down, and there confound their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. So the Most High scattered them abroad from thence upon the face of all the earth, and they left off to build the city. Therefore is the name of it called Babel, because the Most High did there confound the language of all the earth, and from thence did the Most High scatter them abroad upon the face of all the earth." So, we see that verse 7 said that they all had one language, right? So they all understood one another. So together, they could purpose to do this simple thing, right? But y'all know we're at that time, though, now where we're coming back to one language.
Yes.
But it's not one language like verbally speaking, though. It's the World Wide Web. Because now, if someone were in here and speaking Chinese, I can pull up Google Translator and let it hear what they says, and then it could verbally audibly state to me what that person said in Chinese. So we're heading back to a time where we're all becoming of one language again. Now, what's interesting about that is that back then, when they had one language, what did they set to do? They set to build a tower to go all the way into the heavens, right? And the Most High looked at it and he said, wait a minute, look at what they're doing. They're actually going to do this. Wow. If we don't go down there and actually confuse their languages, there's nothing standing in their way for anything that they'll desire to do. But reading the Genesis story doesn't really give you all the story. So we've got to go to Jasher also. We got to get some more information because we need to find out why the Most High saw this as being such a sinful thing. So, let's go to the book of Jasher. We're going to go to Jasher chapter 9. That's the book of Jasher chapter 9. And once we're there, we're going to start reading at verse 20. And I want everybody to keep in mind what they were doing when they were under one language. Because we're going to talk about something they're doing today as a result of being with one language. So, again, we're going to be in the book of Jasher here. And we're going to start at verse 20. So, book of Jasher, chapter 9, verse 20 states, "And King Nimrod reigned securely, and all the earth was under his control, and all the earth was of one tongue and words of union." Now, there we go. We see that being reiterated here in Jasher, right? One language, they were all of union. See, a lot of times, there's this saying in the business world that's called meeting of the minds, right? And a meeting of the minds means that everything has been clearly stated and stated in a way where everyone has a clear, concise understanding of what's going to happen, what their role is, and what it is, what steps are supposed to be taken to accomplish the overall goal of the business. All right? Meeting of the minds. Jasher chapter 9, starting at verse 20. So again, keep in mind, everybody's under one language. They're in union, and they purposed to build a tower. And remember, the Most High saw the building of this tower, and he said this was sin. So let's find out why. Verse 21 in Jasher chapter 9 states, "And the princes of Nimrod and his great men took counsel together, Phut, Mizraim, Cush, and Canaan with their families. And they said to each other, 'Come, let us build ourselves a city and enter a strong tower, and its top reaching heaven, and we will make ourselves famed, so that we may reign upon the whole world, in order that the evil of our enemies may cease from us, that we may reign mightily over them, and that we may not become scattered over the earth on account of their wars.'" Message. We saw in Genesis that it said that they start building, and Genesis only told us lest they be scattered abroad, which again tells us they knew they were supposed to be fruitful and multiplying, right? So there's one sin, right? There's one sin. But when we look in this verse here, verse 21 of Jasher 9, we also see that there's an element of pride there as well, because they want fame. They said again, that we may reign upon the whole world. They said also that it's top reaching heaven, so that we can make ourselves famed. So one thing, they didn't want to be fruitful and multiply and scattered upon the earth. They had also pride. They wanted fame. But also it says they wanted to reign upon the whole world. So they also wanted power. Now, I'm telling you, we're going to get to something here to understand these elements, all right? So they wanted, so far, they were in disobedience. Let's point out the sins: disobedience, pride, arrogance. All right? But let's go on to verse 22. "And they all went before the king," and let's all remember Nimrod was the one who was king at this time. "And they told the king these words, and the king agreed with them in this affair, and he did so." Verse 23. "And all the families assembled, consisting of about 600,000 men, and they went to seek an extensive piece of ground to build the city and the tower. And they sought in the whole earth, and they found none like one valley at the east of the land of Shinar, about 2 days' walk. And they journeyed there, and they dwelt there. And they began to make bricks, and burn the fires to build the city and the tower that they had imagined to complete. And the building of the tower was unto them a transgression and a sin." Jasher, even confirms it to us. "And they began to build it. And whilst they were building against the Lord God of heaven, they imagined in their hearts to war against him and to ascend into heaven. So, right. The audacity, right? Matter of fact, that's actually on the same scale as blasphemy. So let's look at the sins that were committed. The sons of men refused to be fruitful and multiply in order to populate the whole earth. Remember, that was the very first commandment gave to Adam and Eve. Well, it may not have been the very first, but it was one of the main commandments he gave to Adam and Eve. Be fruitful and multiply upon the earth. By definition, upon the earth would mean also, when you break it down to Hebrew, to populate the earth. So that means you cannot stay in one space to populate the whole earth. So they were being disobedient that way. They also wanted fame. All right? They also wanted to reign over all their enemies. So here we have pride, arrogance. But not only that, they wanted to build this tower to war against the Most High. So now they've committed blasphemy. So this is why it's important when you think about the chronological reading guide we're all taking, right? This is why it's important to read it, because notice how Jasher gives us other details that Genesis leaves out. Now, for all my brothers and sisters that may hear this recording later, that may say, well, see, that's proof that the Bible, that you can't trust the Bible. No, we have to understand that Moses was charged to write these books, and we're given a summary in Genesis. And by definition, a summary does not give you every individual detail. There are always details left out of a summary. But when you take the whole word of the Most High and read it together, you fill in all the blanks that may be there. So, now they have blasphemy added onto them because they're imagining to war against the Most High and ascend into heaven. Now, let's stop for a second and let's go to Isaiah 14. We're going to come back to Jasher, but let's go to Isaiah chapter 14. Because there was somebody else too that mentioned that same thing. Y'all remember? Somebody else who had the same thought in their mind, right? Let's start at verse 10. So Isaiah chapter 14, verse 10 states, all they shall speak and say unto thee, art thou also become weak as we? Art thou become like unto us? Thy pomp is brought down to the grave, and the noise of thy vials, the worm is spread under thee, and the worms cover thee. Verse 12, how art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of the Most High. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. I will ascend above the clouds, the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. So, let's ask a question. Where did the sons of men get the idea from? Lucifer. Right, they got the idea from Lucifer. Right, because Lucifer is senior to us in creation. Verse 15, yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit. They shall see thee, they that see thee shall narrowly look upon thee, and consider thee, saying, is this the man that made the earth to tremble, and did shake kingdoms? That made the world as a wilderness, and destroyed the cities thereof? That opened not the house of his prisoners? Now, we wanted to go to that because that's a precept, just to show that our ideas sometimes that we have about doing certain things, sometimes they don't come from us. Now, sometimes they do, because the Bible does speak of, what comes out of a man's heart, defiling them. There are things that we conjure up and we think about, but there's some ideas that we're given. And that's the reason why in the book of Ecclesiastes it says that whatever has been done has been done before. There's nothing new under the sun. These ideas come from somewhere. This is how we talk about things like the Illuminati and different ones and how they started back in 1776 when the Constitution was written and all these things, right? We know that that's also when the Illuminati was formed, the Bravoria, the Illuminati of Bravoria, with Adam Weishaupt at the helm. Think about something for a second. The agenda of the Illuminati is still being carried out today, but all those men are dead. How can the agenda be carried out still today in perfect succession unless the idea came from Satan to begin with? So let's keep this all in mind, right? Let's go back to Jasher, chapter 9. And again, we're going to read from 25 going down. That's again Jasher, chapter 9, verse 25. And the building of the tower was unto them a transgression and a sin. And they began to build it. And whilst they were building against the Lord God of heaven, they imagined in their hearts to war against him and to ascend into heaven. So again, same thoughts of Lucifer, right? Let's keep reading. Verse 26. And all these families and all the families divided themselves in three parts. The first said, we will ascend into heaven and fight against him. So you have now factions that are actually have started, right? And each faction has a specific goal in mind with ascending to heaven, right? First one says that we're going to fight against him. The second said, we will ascend to heaven and place our own gods there and serve them. So you actually have a faction of men that are so bold to say, Most High, we're going to boot you out of the kingdom. We're going to put some new guys there. Now think about that. The audacity for puny mankind to say that against the Most High. That's blasphemy in the utter sense of the word. So imagine that. Well, let's look at the third group. Verse 26, and the third part said, we will ascend into heaven and smite him with bows and spears. So now, let me get this right. You got the first one saying they're going to go up and fight against him. The second one saying that they're going to boot him out of his kingdom and put their own gods up there and serve him. And then the third one saying, we're going to take him down with bows and spears, bows and arrows. Now, just imagine how crazy that sounds, right? And y'all know we have weapons that are far superior to bows and arrows, right, today. But yet we know better than know that a nuclear bomb and none of this stuff can take out the Most High. But this is the kind of thinking, right? Because y'all know when, let's stop for a second and let's think about something. Y'all know when Satan gives us an idea? Hold on, Op. Yes, sir. Hold on, Op. Hold on. Hold it for just a moment, okay? Hold on for just a sec. So, we have all these things here. Brother Rodney's going to have a comment here a little bit coming up, too, as well about that. But our weapons are so much superior to theirs, but yet this is the thinking. And you know, a lot of times when Satan gives us an idea, y'all ever notice when you go back and think a bit about it later, you ask yourself, why did I even do that? That does not even make sense. It's later that we think back to it and we say, what was I thinking about when I even thought that? Because we realize just how crazy the thought was. But in the midst of when we're looking at the sin and we're contemplating doing it, we're not thinking about that. We're not thinking about those consequences. We're not thinking about how good it sounds or how stupid it sounds or anything. This is the state they were in at this point. So let's continue on, okay? Verse 26, and God knew all their works and all their evil thoughts. And he saw the city and the tower which they were building. Verse 27. And when they were building, they had built themselves a great city and a very high and strong tower. And on account of its height, the mortar and bricks did not reach the builders in their ascent to it. Now, we're getting details about the actual building, things like that, right? We've already talked about the sins they're committing. We're talking about why they're actually building this tower, the sins they're committing by doing it, and we're also talking about who was the one that actually gave them the thought to begin with, right? Remember, they were all in one language at this time, a perfect union, right? So they contemplated to do this together. And the Most High said that while they're under this state, look at what they're contemplating doing. We're going to need to do something about this, or otherwise there won't be nothing from stopping them from doing whatever they want to do. Keep with me, everybody. We're going somewhere. We're going somewhere. So, verse 27 again. And when they were building, they built themselves a great city and a very high and strong tower. And on account of its height, the mortar and bricks did not reach the builders in their ascent to it, until those who went up had completed a full year. Now, notice it says it took a whole year just for them to get some bricks up, just because of how tall it was at this point. And we know that when they talking about a new year, they talking about a year according to the Most High's calendar. This here word for year is not a misnomer that means a week or something like that. They're talking about a year. All right, which, according to the Book of Enoch calendar, is 364 days, not 365 and a third. But let's continue. So they did this continually, as it was said at the end of verse 27. Verse 28, and behold, these ascended and others descended the whole day. And if a brick should fall from their hands and get broken, they would all weep over it. And if a man fell and died, none of them would look at him. So we see also, let's add another sin to it, right? Am I my brother's keeper? Is what Cain said to the Most High about Abel. Well, surely they were not being their brother's keeper by, let's just imagine for a second, you're actually on a building, you're building it, somebody's bringing up bricks, and let's just imagine for a second, right? Visualize. The man loses his balance, right? And he falls over, right? He's like, oh, when he falls down, right? And you're looking like, and somebody asks you, hey, what happened? You're like, yeah, Bill just fell over the edge. Did anything happen to the bricks? No, the bricks are good. Bricks are good. Oh, okay, let's keep building. That's what that was like. But if Bill bringing up these bricks would have lost one of those bricks, they'd be like, no, not a brick, Bill. No, come on, Bill, what you doing? That's when they would weep and cry. So they were more concerned about the material to build the tower than actually the people that were actually bringing up the material. But there's so much more sophisticated ways to do this today, which we'll get to, right? Nowadays, we don't have to worry about it taking a year to get material up to build a tower, right? We got cranes, right? We got helicopters. We got all sorts of machinery now. We can get it up there in just less than an hour. But let's keep going. And let's see here, verse 28. And behold, these ascended and others descended the whole day. And if a brick should fall from their hands and get broken, they would all weep over it. And if a man fell and died, none of them would look at him. Verse 29. And the Most High knew their thoughts. And it came to pass, when they were building, they cast the arrows toward the heavens. So remember, we had three factions of people. They said one said they were going to fight against the Most High. The other one said that they were going to replace him with their own gods and serve them. And then the other one said they were going to shoot him with bows and arrows, right? So again, verse 29, the first faction of people started casting their arrows toward the heavens. But y'all know the Most High is more powerful than us. He's greater than us. So let's continue in verse 29. And all the arrows fell upon them filled with blood. So the Most High sent their puny arrows back at them with blood on them. And when they saw them, they said to each other, surely we have slain all those that are in heaven. Now, y'all imagine how stupid that sounds? Right? That these actually said, oh yeah, we done killed everybody up in heaven, y'all. Come on. Second faction, y'all go ahead and put y'all guys up there so we can worship them. But the Most High, as he's always been, is smarter than us. Verse 30, for this was from the Most High in order to cause them to err, and in order to destroy them from off the face of the ground. See, before, when we initiate a plan, he always got a better plan. When we initiate a plan, he's always waiting for us on the other side because he knows everything before we could ever do it, right? Well, let's continue. Verse 31, and they built a tower in the city, and they did this thing daily until many days and years were elapsed. And God said unto the 70 angels who stood most before him, to those who were near him, saying, come, let us descend and confuse their tongues, that one man shall not understand the language of his neighbor. And they did so unto them. And from that day following, they forgot each man his neighbor's tongue, and they could not understand to speak in one tongue. And when the builder took from the hands of his neighbor lime or stone, which he did not order, the builder would cast it away and throw it upon his neighbor, and he would die. So let's add yet another sin to it, right? I think we're at, 6 sins now, Sister Merlene, right? I think we're at 6 now. Because now we can add murder to the list. Because they couldn't understand each other no more, so they still expecting each other to bring up the right materials, to bring up the wrong materials. That'd be like Bill bringing up bricks, and I asked for slime. I'm like, Bill, what you doing? And then I take the bricks and throw it on him. You know what I mean? Like, that's what you get for not bringing me some slime up here. I told you I need a slime, right? So they added murder to the list. Verse 34, and they did so many days, and they killed many of them in this manner. So y'all see how through their own sin and ignorance, they wind up killing each other. They wind up killing each other. Verse 35, and the Most High smote the 3 divisions that were there, and he punished them according to their works and designs. And let's see how he punished them. Those who said, we will ascend into heaven and serve our gods, they became like apes and elephants. So the Most High basically made them also almost become, like as would be said in the Bible, a dumb spirit came upon them, right? So that they now didn't understand anything, right? And it would be understandable because, again, they said they were actually going to go up there, put their own gods in place and serve their gods. They're going to have the audacity to think to boot out the Most High out of his throne. Okay. So they became like apes and elephants. And then let's continue. And those who said, we will smite the heaven with arrows, well, the Most High just killed them. You know what I mean? It's like, it's kind of like, when your patience runs out. He had more mercy on the ones that said they were going to put their own gods up there and should worship them. But the ones that said they won't come up and kill him, he said, you know what? I ain't going to even fool with you no more. You gone. He just got rid of them, right? Most High just killed them. One man through the hand of his neighbor, though. Look how the Most High did it. Those that were killing each other, that was from the Most High. He said, yeah, you going to come up here? Okay. We'll see. You going to kill me? Okay. Yeah, you going to kill yourselves first. And the 3rd division of those who said, we will ascend to heaven and fight against him, the Most High scattered them throughout the earth. So, you see, we see the judgments that happened to all 3 of these factions of men that had these specific purposes for building a tower. Verse 36, and those who were left amongst them, when they knew and understood the evil which was coming upon them, they forsook the building. So once again, we show that through example, there's somebody that realized something's wrong with this. And so they forsook the building, and they also became scattered upon the face of the whole earth. And they ceased building the city and the tower. Therefore he called that place Babel, for there the Most High confounded the language of the whole earth. Behold, it was at the east of the land of Shinar. And as to the tower which the sons of men built, the earth opened its mouth and swallowed up 1/3 part thereof, and a fire also ascended from heaven and burned another third. And the other third is left to this day, and it is of that part which was aloft, and its circumference is 3 days' walk. Now I'm going to tell you, I haven't yet figured out the measurement of what they call a day's walk yet. So once I get that, I'll definitely relay that information to everyone, because for it to actually speak it there, that means that was a pretty good long way. So that means the base of this building had to be very wide for it to actually go up as tall as they were trying to get it to be. And that makes perfect sense to us today, of course. And many of the sons of men died in that tower, a people without number. Now you may say, okay, brother, I learned some things. Yeah, I learned some things I didn't know. I didn't realize it was 3 factions of people, and I didn't realize the actual details behind why they were building this tower, right? But if y'all remember, there was one thing I pointed out before, which was that they were under one language. Because the same way they're building this tower, they got something else they're building today. And I want to know, has anyone heard of Asgardia? Well, you heard of it. Uh-huh. Asgardia. Has anyone heard of that? Okay, we're going to talk about Asgardia today.
So that relates to northern the Nordics.
We're gonna get to it. Trust me. Asgardia. Well, before we do that, Brother Rodney had a comment you want to say. Brother, what was that comment? Brother Rodney, you there? All right, we'll come back to Brother Rodney. Go ahead, sister. Okay, hold on. There you go. Yes, sir, I can hear you now. Go ahead. What's your comment, brother?
Nuke and all that other stuff. There was an experiment that the governments of the world were doing. It was called the Trinity experiment. They have never stopped with the power now. They just keep trying to figure out new ways to do it. They theorized that it was that the atmosphere on Mars. Now, this was before they set it off. So if I told you, you light a match in the room and the whole room, all the oxygen will burn up and everything burns up with it, why would you light that match?
Yep.
So that's what they was trying to do. Then they stopped, then they went underground, and the next wave was about to happen now.
All right. So we appreciate that comment, brother. Absolutely. Sister Moswar, you had a comment?
It was actually exactly what he's talking about, that they're doing that still to this day. But the answer to your question about the day's journey, the day's walk is about 25, 30 miles.
Okay. So Sister Moswar told us a day's journey, a day's walk was about 25 to 30 miles. So the base of that building, then, that means was about up to 90 miles. Now think about that. That's massive to think about, y'all. 90 miles. So the base of that building had to be 90 miles around, circumference. Circumference means how big the base is around. So the thing is, that building had to be up to 90 miles round. Now that's something to think about, a building being up to 90 miles round, because it makes sense with the type of building they were trying to build, one to go into the heavens. They got to have a great foundation to be able to support it. So with that in mind, we're going to talk about something that they're building today. Because remember, we're still under one language, right? With the internet, the World Wide Web, which, when you do the numerical values, has the actual value of 666. Something also is very interesting, and you can actually look up the equation and everything to see how they actually determine it as well. So we're going to talk about something called Asgardia. Okay? Now, let me ask a question real quick. Does anyone know the story of the false god Thor? If y'all remember, the place where they lived at was Asgard, right? There is now a concept called Asgardia, and it's called a space nation. Notice, not a space station. Excuse me 1 second. So, we have Asgardia, the space nation. Hold on 1 second, y'all. Lalisa. Okay. So, she must not hear me. Alright, so we have Asgardia, the space nation. So I'm going to read some information to us about what this so-called Asgardia is supposed to be about, okay? So on the website there, which I'll send it out to everyone, it says, "Welcome to Asgardia, the first ever space nation." Remember, World Wide Web, one language. Unifying us again together so we can do whatever, almost anything we want to do, right? The project's concept comprises 3 parts: philosophical, legal, and scientific/technological. So they've already thought about the concept of this project, right? Philosophical, legal, as well as scientific and technological. So let's talk about the philosophy of it. The philosophy of Asgardia starts at selecting the name of it. They're calling it Asgardia because in ancient Norse mythology, Asgard was a city in the skies. It was in what's called the country of the gods. So think about this for a second, right? We just went over how they're building a tower in the beginning, right? So that they can actually go into the heavens. Remember, we had 3 factions of people. They wanted to shoot the most. They wanted to shoot the Most High up there. They wanted to, shoot them with bows and arrows. They wanted to actually displace the Most High and put their own gods up there. I mean, so all these things are there. So now we have Asgardia. And it's called Asgardia again because in Norse mythology, this was the city in the skies, the country of the gods. But let's look at also what they say. They say it is the realization of man's eternal dream to leave his cradle on earth and expand into the universe. Now, a question, where did they get this idea from? Y'all tell me where they got this idea from. Star Trek. Okay. So but the thing is, where did Star Trek get it from? All goes back to Satan, Lucifer again. So, at first, they had primitive weapons, primitive technology, right? Where they were building a tower to go into the heavens now. Now, they're saying they want to create a whole nation in space. And they have the nerve to say that it's the realization of man's eternal dream to leave his cradle on earth and expand into the universe. Now think about that. They say Asgardia is a fully fledged and independent nation and a future member of the United Nations. With all the attributes this status entails, a government and embassies, a flag, a northern anthem and insignia, and so on. So, this Asgardia is supposed to be a full nation, independent, but also still a part of the United Nations. Right? And y'all know the United Nations is one of those things that they're united, yeah, for the same purposes like they were initially united under Nimrod. So again, must we say again, as it says in Matthew 24, as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be when during the coming of the Son of Man? Y'all see how again where Ecclesiastes comes into play and nothing new, nothing is new under the sun. What has been has already been done. The only difference is today we have a whole lot of extra technology to do it with, right? That's all it is. So it's going to be a little easier this time. They say the essence of Asgardia is peace in space. Look at that, peace in space. And the prevention of Earth's conflicts being transferred into space. Y'all know every time they come up with an idea, they always have to have an idea based on peace, and this is better for mankind, and it's better for us to be united together and do this stuff here because this is going to make us be at peace, help us understand one another. They always have something that sounds nice on the surface, but is always something below. And again, what's actually the central reason below? It was actually what we read in Isaiah 14. Satan said, he will ascend upon the height of the clouds, and he will be like the Most High. See, what we have to understand is, at any time, we're either a tool for the Most High to use, or we're a tool being used by Satan. And these people that are wanting to construct these things are being used as pawns, being used as tools for Satan. Because Satan still wants to accomplish his initial goal, which is to ascend above the heights of the clouds and be like the Most High. Satan hasn't forgot that. This is why we have things like the Illuminati and the Bavarian Association and all these different things. This is why. The point is, this is why men can die and another man will step in their place and keep doing it, because Satan says, look, I have a mission and I'm going to use mankind to accomplish my mission. So a question I'll ask all of us today is, who are you being used as a tool by? And what are you doing? Whatever you're doing in your life, is it a tool to actually better the Most High's kingdom? Or is it a tool to actually better Satan's kingdom? Because he does have a kingdom. Well, let's continue. Asgardia is also unique from a philosophical aspect in that it's supposed to serve humanity, each and every one, regardless of his or her personal welfare and the philosophy of the country where they happen to be born. Look at that. It's also to digitize the noosphere. Now, if anyone doesn't know, we have multiple actual spheres within the atmosphere. All right. So they said they're going to digitize the noosphere. Right. That means they're going to make it where we can be up here in this nation. We got internet and all this kind of stuff. It'd be just like on the earth. They're going to create a mirror of humanity, they say, in space. But it's going to be without the earthly division into states, religions, and nations. No, we're not going to have that in Asgardia. In Asgardia, we're going to all just be earthlings. Now, I'm not making this up with my own words, y'all. This is actually what they say. What about their legal aspects? Well, let's hear what they say. They say today, many of the problems relating to space law are unresolved and may never be solved in the complex and contradictory dark woods of modern international law. Geopolitical squabbles have a great influence and are often rooted in the old military history and unresolvable conflicts of countries on Earth. It's time to create a new judicial reality in space. I tell y'all, it sounds good on paper, huh? Well, it would if we didn't know the backdrop to know that Satan already had this plan to begin with before mankind came into play, and he just using mankind to try to accomplish it. Something you want to say, Brother Craig?
The movie Elysium.
Oh, great point. Brother Craig brought up the movie Elysium. Has anyone seen that movie? You seen it, Sister Nikki?
I don't.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen it, it's a movie you should watch today,
Okay.
so you get an idea, because this is what they did in Elysium.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, brother, for bringing it up. In Elysium, they actually had a space nation.
Is that what?
Mm-hmm.
From born.
Yeah, it's a Matt Damon.
Yeah, Matt Damon.
Right.
That's right. Yes,
That's
okay,
right.
Yes, I've seen it.
That's right. Look at that.
We saw it.
That's right. So they even already made a movie. But
When you were saying what you
Uh-huh.
were saying, that's what I was saying to her. He's saying everything that
Uh-huh.
was on that movie.
It was on that
because
movie.
That's what they did. They created a nation in space.
that's right.
And the people were left in the earth desolate.
That's right.
It messed
Exactly.
up.
But they're setting us up for these things. I can tell you 3 movies that talk about the same thing.
3 movies. Okay.
At least.
Okay. Yeah. So the thing is that it is a setup,
Yeah.
because the thing is in the movies it don't play out the same way they're saying on paper, right?
They're conforming us.
Conforming
Setting
us,
up
yeah.
for what they're-
Right.
That's right. So that's good though, right? Because they've already made a movie about it. What we may not realize is that they've already got a real plan to do this, a real one. That's the thing that's amazing about it. So they said that it is of crucial importance that space law does not become the law of the jungle. Today, only 20 countries on Earth out of about 200 have a space presence and have, for example, plans to mine in space and lay claim to exclusivity and monopoly. New space law has to equally protect the interests of every human being on Earth. Yeah, slave, like Brother Craig said, slaves. They said it means protecting individuals and countries, particularly developing nations, from space threats, as well as delivering the benefits of using space for creating new goods and services and financial resources. Do y'all like how they say that they have to protect
Yeah, right.
particularly developing nations from space threats? There's only one thing I know of that's going to be coming out of some called space, and that's
Yeah.
the Messiah on the clouds.
Right, right.
But yet we need to be protected from space elements. Wow. Okay. They say the question of Asgardia citizenship is also essential. After Asgardia is recognized as a member of the UN, the question of reasons for granting citizenship will inevitably arise. So I just listened to you tell me about why this is going to be good for everybody, but now you actually got a question why somebody wants to be a citizen of it? Wait a minute, I thought, don't we all want peace and prosperity and financial security and all these things?
We know what the word citizen means, right?
Well, thank you, brother. The word citizens means you're granted a privilege.
Right.
It's not a right. When you look it up in Black's legal definition, right? You're just given a privilege to do something. That's what a license is. It's not a right. It's a privilege. That's why you got to keep paying over and over to you to stay licensed.
Way down free.
That's right. Praise the Most High, we free. So they say the question of Asgardia citizenship is also essential. After Asgardia is recognized as a member of the UN, the question of reasons for granting citizenship would inevitably arise. One opinion is that the first Asgardians will be those who work in the fields of space research and exploration and space technology, as well as investors in these fields, including small investors. Of course, special preference will be given to the first 100,000 people who apply prior to the launch of the first satellite. Now, let's really make this clear. These first 100,000 people, y'all know, are only going to be the filthy rich, right? It's not going to be us common folk,
Just like in the movie.
right? Just like in the movies. In Elysium, the people in Elysium were people that had money. They were the higher class people. That's what they were.
Higher level
So,
of humanity.
the higher levels of humanity, those philosophers and those that could
Intellect.
accurately interpret everything for us, they had a high intellect. And essentially, they were considered the best of the best. All right? This does not mean Asgardia citizenship will not be available to all people on Earth, regardless of their earthly jurisdiction. A core principle is that Asgardia does not interfere in relations between states on Earth and vice versa. So they said that Asgardia is not going to interfere with things on Earth, and the Earth is not going to interfere with things in Asgardia. But again, that's a lie based on everything else they've already said about this being the cradle of civilization. Man's realization to coming into space. And y'all know what? That's really something in itself, because personally, I don't even believe they've been in space, but hey, let's not talk about that. That's a whole nother topic, right? Asgardia's legal envelope includes the creation of a new legal platform for the exploration of near-Earth and deep space. Universal space law and astropolitics have to replace international space law and geopolitics. The scientific and technological component of the project can be explained in 3 words, they say: peace, access, and protection. It's amazing they have 3 factions, because there were 3 factions of people. And all 3 factions of people had a specific purpose, but this is for peace, access, and protection. Again, protection from what? Oh, the Messiah coming on the clouds. Or from who? These are the 3 most important scientific and technological aspects of Asgardia goals. First, to ensure the peaceful use of space. Okay. The second is to protect planet Earth from space threats. There we go with those space threats again. There are 7 threats in our classification system. And let's listen to the threats they mention here. What's important, though, is the threat that they don't mention. Sunstorms and flares, known as coronal mass ejections. But let me ask y'all a question. Y'all know that they say we have sunstorms every year, right? I never hear anybody being hurt from a sunstorm. Yeah, you may not can watch TV for a while. You may not can use the phone for a little bit. The internet may be out for a little bit, but I don't hear about anybody dying from solar flares, as they say, sunstorms. Do you? Nah. I know you burning with something to say, Brother Craig. Go ahead.
The movie 2012.
Okay, the movie,
Sunstorm.
right? Movie 2012 he mentioned with sunstorms.
There's others.
Right. So they also say changes in the Earth's magnetosphere that destroy the effective protective layer of our planet. Potentially dangerous asteroids and comets, man-made orbital debris, changes in the climate stemming from technogenic factors, and sun radiation. Cosmic radiation from nuclear reactions in novae, supernova, and pulsars, and the danger of Earth's inflection by microorganisms from meteors and other small celestial bodies. But it's amazing that these things they're talking about, I don't never hear about us having problems from these things on a daily basis. It's amazing. But they have to, as Brother Craig is saying, they have to program us to think these are problems.
The movies and the media.
Through the movies and the media. But the Most High made a planet to sustain life. So the Most High already knew what it needed to be here for us to be okay, right? So keep in mind what Nimrod did. Keep in mind what Satan said he was going to do. And then look at the state of today. As it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be during the time when the Messiah returned. And now we have Asgardia to look forward to, as they say. The third goal is to create a demilitarized and free scientific base of knowledge in space. But all the knowledge that the Most High would purpose us to have, we already have here on Earth. But it's not good enough. Or we're just grasping at straws to be defiant to the Most High. That's actually really what this is about. Mankind is still wanting to be defiant to his God. And let's think about this for a second, right? The very fact that they actually want to do this is an act of defiance. Because I guarantee you, the people that are at the helm of this program, they know we're supposed to be on the earth. See, they may lie to us and tell us that there is no God. But by their very actions, they prove that there really is a God. Because how can you be doing something that was already told would be done in the Bible thousands of years before? Now, someone will say, but brother, no, this ain't what was done in the Bible. Yes, it is. The difference is we just got modern day technology to do it with. That's the only difference. So the thing is that by their own actions, they can say that there's no God, but they know that there's a God. We can tell that by what they're trying to do. So they say, such access should be free and direct. It's going to provide free access to all, especially those from developing nations who do not have space access now. And again, it's going to be free and direct. Asgardia's technical structure is comprised of one or several core satellites, clusters of network-centric small satellites, and protective space platforms. Now, I know some of the stuff we may be listening to and we're saying, brother, I don't even know what that means. And the reason why we're not going into what they exactly mean, because we already know it's a fallacy. Because we already know everything that we need is already here. There's no need for a space nation. But the widest participation in this open project is one of their goals, which is participation from interested scientists and companies without limiting them by our own vision of the technological side of things at the moment, they say. So again, summary, they say Asgardia is a sort of matryoshka, and that's a word I will actually define. If you don't know what a matryoshka is, it's like a head. It's like a head or Lalisa, can you mute your phone? Thank you, sis. It's like a head of a. It's like a head or like something that's like almost like matriarchal or something like that. Okay. So the thing is, they say Asgardia is to be a sort of head made of philosophy, law, and technology, and whatever else is hidden inside is something we will discover in the near future, they say. They say we're not selling pieces of land on the moon or water in Antarctica. We're actually not selling anything at all at the moment, they say. They said at the moment they're not selling anything. Only after we have proven this idea with a confirmed launch of an equipped satellite may we begin talking about Asgardia's budgets. Right now, work on the project is funded entirely from our personal private funds. And let's ask a question here. Who is rich enough to have private funds to fund this? Only the elite of the world, the Illuminati, the people that run this world already. It is a clear-cut decision. We have now declared our concept and philosophy publicly and would like as many people as possible on the planet to find out about it. So they want you to know about it because they want you to participate in its formation. But I don't think any of us are going to be participating in this sinful act because we already know this is something against what the Most High wants. And they say, of course, we are making use of crowdfunding and sourcing and private donations. And we welcome cooperation from new partners and investors. Asgardia's technical, legal, and philosophical team is in the process of being set up. And then they say, welcome to Asgardia.
Sales pitch.
Right. As Brother Craig said, this is a sales pitch. So again, the funny thing is when you look at the website, they got a picture of the doctor behind the concept, Dr. Igor Asherbali. And he's in this picture with his glasses and he's smiling and he's looking all happy, and they got a little background in the background of supposedly the above the Earth's surface and everything, looking out in space. So again, a space nation. This is why we had to go into Jasher. This is why we had to go into Genesis, because in order for us to see that this here is sinful, We have to be able to point out what was the sin at first that caused them to want to do these type of things to begin with. And again, this is always the situation that happens, right? What's happened before, it's happening again. They just have a different way of initiating it. Go ahead, Sister Nell. What were you going to say?
Is what you just now said, what has happened before
Mm-hmm.
is now happening again, and you said, as it was in the day of Noah, so it
Yes.
should be. Well, I just wanted to say that the Nephilims are back.
The
They
Nephilim?
never did really leave, but
Mm-hmm.
they're prevalent now.
Resurface.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and are prevalent.
Mm-hmm.
Why did I say that? Because they have a lot of movies
Mm-hmm.
that have Nephilims in it, but they don't call them that.
Right. You're right.
Because they're trying to make you think, here are some super fantastic people.
That's right. Superhero
and you
movies.
need
Yep.
to accept them.
That's
and
right.
so if you see the X-Men, X-people or
Right.
whatever,
Mm-hmm.
it's a whole nation of them, and they always have a plight.
That's
We're
right.
trying to get them to accept us. They don't
Mhm.
understand us.
That's right.
We're just like everybody else. We just have extra powers.
Yep.
So
You're
it's
right.
a programming already with being able to accept the Nephilims.
Mm-hmm. Yep. You're right. It is programming, and what they call predictive programming. Because if I program you long enough with certain material, I can predict your response. That's why it's called predictive programming. That's why, you know what I mean, when we deal with our children, we should talk to our children about the things they see on TV so that they would understand that it's predictive programming. It's programming designed to have you think a certain way, and therefore if you think a certain way, they can predict what you're going to do. I mean, like, y'all remember that lesson we talked about, the purpose of public education, right? It's all predictive programming, right? If I program you to think this way, I'll be able to predict what you're going to do. And that's what it's all about. And like you said, those movies, you're right, because the Nephilim are the things we had that were in real life upon the earth that are just like the Supermans and the Wonder Womans and the Aquaman and all this kind of stuff, you know? And that's a very good point, because as something is put out more and more, people begin to accept it.
And they're making you,
Mhm.
especially the little children,
Mm-hmm.
they're making you embrace them.
That's right.
You know,
That's right.
there's nothing wrong with them. They're
Mhm.
friendly people, and they're here to help.
And then let's look at something else too, right? So you notice how we went into Genesis and Jasher on this, right? And one of the things weird is why we went there too is because you notice today they're steadily trying to take the Bible out of schools, and they're trying to discredit the Bible, even though the Bible is the most widely publicized book in the world. It sold more copies than any other book ever, right? They're trying to displace it, right? And throw it to the wayside. This is how someone could read about Asgardia, and I'm talking about even Christians can read about Asgardia and not automatically put it two and two together with what the Bible says. Because let's just be honest, y'all. Even as believers, they are working hard to displace us. They are working hard to get the knowledge of the Most High out of our minds so that we'll only have their knowledge. Because if they do that, they can continually tell us how to think, how to live, how to act, how to be, what to say, what to do. And it's, and it's really important, that we know these things, because the thing is, we all can go and see directly related to the Book of Jasher, what it told us about the building of the Tower of Babel, and we can automatically see right off the surface, Asgardia is nothing but more than another Tower of Babel. That's all it is.
In a computer.
Uh-huh.
Is that what a Trojan does?
A Trojan?
Yeah, because the computer, it kind of falsifies things.
Right.
And then reprograms it at the same time.
That's right. A Trojan will actually, it comes under the aura of camouflage, so that at first you don't even know about it at first, and then while it's actually camouflaging, it's gradually reprogramming things in the background, so that then when it finally surfaces, You're like, whoa, what just happened here? But see, the problem is, if these things going on in the earth become like Trojans to us, viruses, we'll find out when it's too late. And that's why we need to stay awake, to what's going on. And do you know that for Asgardia, they have a question on here that says, I'm 18. Can I become as Asgardian? Asking, can they become a citizen? They said yes, but you need parental consent. If you have already registered as Asgardian, you will need to re-register with the form from under 18-year-olds. So the thing is, you already have people. They put in the question there because I'm sure some people that are under 18 have already posed a question. This is what they call the millennials these days. This is the generation that you're in, Virtue. And the millennials, if you really know, our children are so far removed from the Most High today that it's really sad. It's scary. Yeah, like Brother Craig said, it really is, because now the Most High is not being taught in the homes anymore, right? So children will read about this Asgardia, and they'll be in families where I guarantee you it'll be said, yeah, we believe in God, yeah, and stuff like that, right? But how is it you believe in God and you don't see that this plainly is another Tower of Babel? Plainly. And so I always say, that I really feel for people that have children at this time and that hour, because honestly, the actual struggle is going to be to actually war for their children's minds. It's going to be a hard one. And I'm telling you, we know it ourselves having teenagers. It's hard because the thing is, there's so much more vying for their attention. So much that's not on the Most High. But the Most High charged us to stay awake. He charged us to stay awake so that we will be able to recognize these things, because we're not supposed to be ignorant of Satan's devices. So they have questions on here, like another one says, my country does not allow dual citizenships, and I registered on your site. What happens? They said Asgardia will allow dual citizenship. It'll just be up to the citizen's home country to allow dual citizenship, or not with Asgardia. Once Asgardia is recognized as a nation, our Asgardia plans on allowing dual citizenship nationality via program similar to the green card, permanent resident card. You may say, brother, why are you reading this? I'm reading this because we need to understand this is a real plan that they're trying to do. They're really trying to make an Elysium. And the thing is, if the Most High does not send the Messiah back in time, they will create it. They're working on it. But we need to understand this is serious. What language can I use to contact Asgardia? Support is only available in English at this time. And y'all know that English is what's called a universal language, right? You know, the business all over the world is conducted in English. So my point again back to this is this. This plan here is nothing more than a Tower of Babel. And it's the same plans as the initial plans. Satan still wants to get himself above the height of the clouds. So y'all know when we have gatherings and we gather together and everything, right? It's important that we get the word. But it's also important that we get things to keep us awake of what's going on in the world. Because the word encompasses all areas of our lives. It should, right? It should teach us how to be holy, teach us how to be brother and sister to one another, teach us how to live, teach us how to act, how to think, teaches us what culture we should have. But also, the word is there to admonish us, to equip us for the preaching of God's word and to the spreading of his gospel throughout the four corners. And so this thing here was one of these things I had come across weeks and weeks ago. But I was praying to the Most High about when should we actually talk about it. And so I was, as I said to Brother Craig earlier, I was trying to formulate a plan of execution, right? And asking the Most High, okay, how do we tie it in? You know, how do we do that, Father? And the Most High gave me an execution, a form of execution. So that's why we wanted to present this today, so everyone is aware of this. So that when you start hearing about Asgardia on the news, well, we're going to be a step ahead of most people, aren't we? And we're going to be able to tell those wherever we are, and they're talking about it, and someone says, Merlene, did you hear about them making that space nation? Merlene's going to be like, yeah, girl, I already knew about that. Let me show you something here. So Miss Merlene will be able to educate them right there from the scriptures.
You can also say, yeah, God foresaw this a long time ago. Don't you know this?
That's right.
That's right.
It's right there. So, again, remember Asgardia, because I'm sure this is going to be something on the news that's going to be pointed out a lot soon. Let's remember what Satan said. Let's remember what they did in Jasher. Those three factions, their own purposes. Because the thing about it is what we need to remember is when Satan gives us an idea that we decide we want to execute upon, remember, your idea for wanting to do that simple thing, and a lot of times we know it's sinful. A lot of times we do. These people in Jasher, they knew that this was wrong. There was no question they knew it. But yet, they had their own ideas why they were doing it. But the one behind them, Satan, had his own agenda for it. We need to remember that in our own lives. Because at one time or another, there has been a plan that each of us had formulated that we knew was wrong. And we had a purpose in mind of why we were doing it. But Satan had a different purpose. And then come the Most High that used what you tried to do to turn something around for you in your own life. So even he had a different purpose with allowing you to go through what you did. Let's stay awake. And let's make sure that we're not being a tool used for the kingdom of Satan. Let's make sure that we're being used for the betterment of the Most High's kingdom. And that is today's lesson.